He was 5 feet 5 inches tall. He weighed 112 pounds. The Army rejected him twice for being too small and too young. But by age 21, Audie Murphy had killed over 240 enemy soldiers, earned 33 medals, and stood alone on a burning tank destroyer fighting an entire German company. This is his impossible story. Act 1. Too Small to Fight, June, 1942. Hunt County, Texas. Audie Leon Murphy walked into the Army recruitment office in Greenville, Texas. He was 17 years old. He looked like he was 14, height 5 feet 5 inches. Weight 112 pounds. Skinny, baby-faced, soft-spoken. The recruitment sergeant looked him up and down, tried not to laugh. "Son, how old are you?" 18, sir," Audie lied. He was still 17. "You got a birth certificate proving that?" Audie didn't. His family was so poor they hadn't registered his birth properly. In rural Texas during the Depression, paperwork was a luxury. The sergeant shook his head. "Even if you were 18, you're too small. Army has minimum requirements. You don't meet them. I can shoot." "I'm sure you can, son. But this is war, not hunting rabbits." "Go home." Audie didn't go home. Because what that recruitment sergeant didn't know was that this 112-pound teenager had already survived. Something harder than war, Audie Murphy had grown up in poverty that most people couldn't imagine. 12 siblings. A father who abandoned the family. A mother who died when Audie was 16, leaving him responsible for his younger brothers and sisters. They lived in a sharecropper's shack with dirt floors. Some nights there was no food. Audie would go into the woods with a borrowed rifle and hunt squirrels, rabbits, anything he could find to feed his family. He became an expert marksman out of necessity. Miss the shot, your siblings don't eat. Simple as that. When his mother died, Audie tried to keep the family together. But he was 16 years old with no money and no job. His younger siblings were placed in an orphanage. Audie felt like he had failed them. That's when he decided to join the Army. Not for glory. Not for adventure. For the 50 a month salary that he could send back to help his siblings. But the Army didn't want him. He tried the Marines next. They rejected him immediately. Too short. The Navy. Doesn't meet physical standards. The paratroopers. Are you joking? Every branch of the military looked at this tiny teenager and said no. Until finally, in June 1942, a different Army recruitment office, either more desperate for soldiers or less strict about regulations, accepted him. Audie Murphy was going to war. AC-2, the first kill North Africa. 1943. Audie's first combat deployment was Operation Torch, the Allied invasion of North Africa. He was assigned to Company B, 1st Battalion, 15th Infantry Regiment, 3rd Infantry Division. The other soldiers immediately nicknamed him Baby. He looked like someone's little brother who had wandered into a war by mistake. His uniform was too big. His helmet kept sliding down over his eyes. He had to roll up his sleeves because the arms were too long. The veteran soldiers didn't take him seriously. "Hey, baby, you sure you're in the right place? Kindergarten is back that way." Audie didn't respond. He never did. He was quiet, almost shy. He kept to himself, wrote letters to his siblings, cleaned his rifle obsessively. The other soldiers thought he wouldn't last a week in combat. They were wrong. Because the first time Audie Murphy killed a man, something changed in him forever. It happened during a patrol near Kasserine Pass. Audie's squad was moving through rough terrain when they encountered 2 German soldiers in a machine gun position. Sergeant whispered, "Murphy, you're the best shot." "Take them out." Audie raised his M1 Garand rifle. Through the sights, he could see the German soldiers clearly. They were young, maybe his age. They were laughing about something, completely unaware they were being watched. Audie hesitated. These weren't targets. They weren't animals he was hunting for food. They were people. With families. With lives. "Murphy," the sergeant hissed. "Take the shot." Audie squeezed the trigger. The first German dropped instantly. The second one turned, confused, trying to locate where the shot came from. Audie fired again. Both Germans dead in less than 3 seconds. The squad moved past the position. The sergeant clapped Audie on the shoulder. "Good shooting, baby." But Audie stood there staring at the two bodies. He had just killed two human beings. He was 18 years old. That night he couldn't sleep. He kept seeing their faces. The one who had been laughing. The confused expression on the second one's face. Many soldiers would have broken down. Would have refused to kill again. Would have found a way out of combat. Audie made a different choice. He decided that if he had to kill to survive, he would become the best killer in the army. Not because he enjoyed it, but because hesitation meant his friends would die. Mercy meant American soldiers wouldn't go home, so he stopped feeling. Act 3. The Killing Machine, Sicily. July 1943. The Allied invasion of Sicily was brutal. The 3rd Infantry Division faced experienced German and Italian forces in mountainous terrain. This is where Audie Murphy transformed from baby into something else. Entirely. During the assault on Mount Damiano, Audie's company was pinned down by a German machine gun nest. The gun was positioned perfectly. Anyone who moved would be cut down instantly. The company was stuck. The advance was halted. Casualties were mounting. Audie studied the terrain. He noticed a small draw, a depression in the ground, that led around the left flank of the German position. It was narrow. It was exposed for a 20-meter stretch. But it was possible. Without asking permission, Audie crawled into the draw. His squad leader shouted, "Murphy, get back here!" Audie kept crawling. He moved slowly, using every bit of cover. When he reached the exposed section, he didn't hesitate. He sprinted. German bullets kicked up dirt around his feet. He dove behind a rock, unhit by some miracle. From his new position, he had a clear angle on the machine gun nest. What happened next would become legendary in the 3rd Infantry Division. Audie opened fire with his M1 Garand. 8 shots in rapid succession. The German machine gunner dropped. The assistant gunner tried to take over. Audie killed him too. A 3rd German reached for the gun. Audie shot him through the head. 3 Germans dead in under 10 seconds, but Audie wasn't done. He threw a grenade into the position. The explosion killed 2 more Germans who had been hiding behind sandbags. Then Audie charged forward, this tiny 112-pound teenager running straight at the enemy position while firing his rifle. The remaining Germans surrendered. When Audie returned to his company, the soldiers stared at him in shock. The sergeant who had called him baby just shook his head. "I don't know what the hell that was, Murphy." But do it again, Audie did it again. And again. And again. In Italy, he single-handedly destroyed a German tank by climbing on top of it and shooting the crew through the hatch. In France, he killed 6 German soldiers who were attempting to surround his position, all headshots at over 200 meters. In the Vosges Mountains, he held a position alone against 12 German soldiers for 2 hours, killing 8 of them before reinforcements arrived. His kill count kept rising. 50, 75, 100, 150. The soldiers stopped, calling him baby. They started calling him the ghost because he moved through enemy territory like he was invisible. German soldiers started to fear him specifically. Intelligence reports showed that German commanders were warning their troops about the small American who fights like 10 men. But here's what made Audie different from other soldiers with high kill counts. He never enjoyed it after battles. While other soldiers celebrated victories, Audie would sit alone, silent, staring at nothing. He wrote letters to his siblings but never mentioned the killing. He had nightmares every night, but never complained. He was becoming the most lethal soldier in the U.S. Army, and he hated every second of it. January 26, 1945, near Holtzwihr, France. This was the day Audie Murphy did something that military. Historians still call the most extraordinary act of valor in U.S. military history. The situation was desperate. Audie's company, now reduced to just 9 men from the original 128, was positioned near the Colmar Pocket in eastern France. They were holding a defensive line against a major German counterattack. At approximately 2:00 p.m., German forces began their assault, 6 tanks and over 250 infantry soldiers advancing on Company B's position. American soldiers against 250-plus Germans and 6 tanks. The math was simple. They were going to die. But Audie Murphy was about to prove that mathematics don't apply in war when one man refuses to accept defeat. The German tanks opened fire. Artillery shells exploded around the American positions. The noise was deafening. The ground shook with each impact. Audie was now a lieutenant, promoted through the ranks because of his combat effectiveness. He had to make a decision: retreat or hold the line. He knew if they retreated, the Germans would break through. American forces behind them would be vulnerable. The entire front could collapse. He ordered his men to fall back to a more defensible position in the woods. They retreated, leaving Audie and his command group, just him and a few other soldiers, to hold as long as possible. Then one of the American M10 tank destroyers supporting them took a direct hit. The M10 was disabled. Its crew bailed out and ran. The vehicle was sitting in the open, flames starting to spread from the engine compartment. Ammunition was stored inside. It could explode at any moment. On top of the M10 was a .50 caliber machine gun. Still functional, Audie looked at the burning tank destroyer, looked at the advancing Germans. Made his decision, he ran to the M10. "Murphy, what are you doing?" His soldiers shouted. "Get back! That thing's gonna explode." Audie climbed onto the burning tank destroyer, positioned himself behind the .50 cal machine gun, and started firing at the German advance. The Germans were 100 meters away. Closing fast, Audie opened fire. The .50 caliber machine gun is a devastating weapon. Each bullet is designed to penetrate light armor. Against human targets, the effect is catastrophic. Audie swept the gun across the German infantry line. Bodies dropped. The Germans scattered, trying to find cover, but they kept coming. German soldiers fired back. Bullets hit the tank destroyer around Audie. He kept firing. A German tank turned its main gun toward him. Audie saw it, shifted his fire, killed the German infantry protecting the tank. The tank crew, now exposed and without infantry support, retreated. The M10 beneath Audie was fully engulfed in flames now. Smoke was pouring from the engine compartment. The metal was becoming hot enough to burn through his boots. Ammunition inside was starting to cook off. Small explosions inside the vehicle. Audie kept firing. And then something happened that witnesses said they couldn't believe even while watching it. Audie ran out of ammunition for the .50 cal. But instead of retreating, he grabbed the radio telephone still connected to the burning tank destroyer. He called in artillery strikes, on his own position. "Fire on my coordinates," he ordered. "Murphy, that's your position." "We'll hit you! I know! Fire everything you've got!" American artillery began raining down on the field where Audie was standing. Shells exploded around the burning tank destroyer. Shrapnel flew everywhere. Audie was calling in death on himself to stop the German advance. The German attack faltered. Between Audie's machine gun fire and the artillery he was calling in on his own position, the Germans couldn't advance. Bodies were everywhere. The attack was breaking apart. Audie stood on that burning tank destroyer for over an hour, 1 hour, alone, on a vehicle that was literally on fire, shooting at 250-plus German soldiers, calling artillery strikes on his own position. The Germans finally retreated. When American soldiers reached Audie, they found him still standing on the tank destroyer, which was now completely destroyed by fire. His uniform was burned. His face was blackened by smoke. His hands were blistered from the heat of the machine gun. He had a leg wound from shrapnel he hadn't even noticed. They asked him how many Germans he had killed. Audie's response: "I don't know. I stopped counting at 50. Later estimates, based on the battlefield evidence and German casualty reports, concluded Audie Murphy had killed or wounded over 50 German soldiers in that single action. Alone, on a burning tank. For this action, he received the Medal of Honor, the highest military decoration in the United States. But here's what the citation didn't mention. Audie Murphy had nightmares about this day for the rest of his life. Act 5, the most decorated by the end of World War II in 1945. Audie Murphy's service record was unprecedented, rewards and decorations, including Medal of Honor, Distinguished Service Cross, 2 Silver Stars, Legion of Merit, 2 Bronze Stars, 3 Purple Hearts, and decorations from France and Belgium, was the most decorated U.S. combat soldier of World War II. He had participated in campaigns across North Africa, Sicily, Italy, France, and Germany. His confirmed kill count, over 240 enemy soldiers. He was 21 years old. But here's what nobody talks about. Audie Murphy came home more broken than heroic. When the war ended, America celebrated. Soldiers returned home to parades and parties. They were heroes. They had saved the world from fascism. Audie returned to a country that wanted to hear about glory and victory, but all he had was trauma. He couldn't sleep. When he did sleep, he had nightmares so violent he would wake up screaming. He kept a loaded pistol under his pillow and once nearly shot a friend who tried to wake him. Loud noises made him hit the ground. Crowds made him anxious. He couldn't hold a job. He couldn't maintain relationships. This was PTSD, though in 1945 they called it shell shock or battle fatigue, and there was no real treatment for it. Audie struggled in silence. He was a war hero, which meant he couldn't admit he was suffering. Heroes don't break down. Heroes don't cry. Heroes don't admit they're drowning. He tried to find purpose. Tried different jobs. Nothing worked. Then Hollywood found him. Act 6. The Hollywood Years Life magazine did a feature story on Audie Murphy, America's most decorated soldier. The photos showed this baby-faced young man with 33 medals. Actor James Cagney saw the article and thought, "This kid should be in movies." Cagney invited Audie to Hollywood, offered to help him become an actor. Audie, who had no other prospects and was struggling with PTSD, accepted. It was surreal. 3 years earlier, he had been killing Germans on a burning tank. Now he was taking acting lessons in Beverly Hills. But here's the thing. Audie could act. Or rather, he didn't have to act. Cameras loved him. He had a natural screen presence, quiet, intense, authentic. He started getting roles in Western films. Small parts at first, then leading roles. In 1955, he did something unprecedented. He starred in a film based on his own autobiography, To Hell and Back. Audie Murphy played himself in his own war story. The film was a massive success. It became Universal Pictures' highest-grossing film until it was surpassed by Jaws in 1975. Audie became a Hollywood star. He made over 40 films. He was handsome, talented, famous. He had money. He had fame, but he was still broken inside. Because Hollywood success couldn't fix what war had broken. Audie's PTSD never went away. In fact, it got worse. He became addicted to sleeping pills, the only way he could sleep without nightmares. The addiction spiraled. He was taking dangerous amounts. He had violent mood swings. On film sets, he would suddenly become aggressive, then apologize profusely. Directors learned to work around his trauma. His marriages fell apart. He was married 3 times, each relationship destroyed by his inability to process his trauma. He made bad business investments and lost most of his money. The war hero, the Hollywood star, was going broke. But Audie did something incredibly brave. He spoke publicly about his PTSD. In the 1960s, when mental health was stigmatized and war trauma was something you didn't discuss, Audie Murphy went on television and talked about his nightmares, about his addiction, about his struggles. He testified before Congress about the lack of mental health services for veterans. He became an advocate for PTSD treatment decades before it was recognized as a legitimate medical condition. This tiny man who had killed over 240 enemy soldiers was now fighting a different battle, trying to save veterans from the invisible wounds of war. May 28, 1971, Audie Murphy was flying in a private plane from Atlanta to Martinsville, Virginia. He was going to visit a business associate, trying to rebuild his finances. The weather was bad, fog, low visibility. At 3:00 p.m., the plane crashed into Brush Mountain near Catawba, Virginia. Audie Murphy, age 46, was killed instantly. The news shocked America. the most decorated soldier of World War II, the man who had survived impossible combat situations, killed in a plane crash during peacetime. There's something tragically poetic about it. The man who stood on a burning tank fighting 250 Germans died in an accident flying through fog. War couldn't kill him. But peace did. But here's the final truth about Audie Murphy that defines his entire legacy. When he was buried at Arlington National Cemetery, the funeral was enormous. Thousands of people attended. Veterans from every branch of service came to pay respects, but the most telling moment came from the letters. Found in his personal effects, Audie had been secretly donating most of his Hollywood earnings to veterans' organizations. He had been quietly paying for therapy for other soldiers suffering from PTSD. He had been helping homeless veterans find housing. He never publicized any of this. Never sought credit. Just quietly helped other broken soldiers because he understood their pain. In one letter, found after his death, Audie wrote to a friend, "I'm not a hero. I'm a survivor who got lucky. The real heroes are the ones who didn't make it home. The ones who came home broken and nobody cared. I have a platform. I have fame. I can use it to help them. That's the only thing that makes any of this mean something." That's who Audie Murphy really was. Not the soldier with 240 kills. Not the man who stood on a burning tank. Not the Hollywood star. But the broken veteran who refused to let his trauma be meaningless. Who used his pain to help others. Who spent his life fighting a different war. The war for veterans' mental health, decades before anyone else cared. Final legacy today. Audie Murphy's grave at Arlington National Cemetery is the second most visited grave in the entire cemetery, second only to President John F. Kennedy. Every day, veterans leave medals, flags, and thank you notes at his headstone. The Department of Veterans Affairs named several hospitals after him. His advocacy for PTSD treatment in the 1960s-70s directly led to the modern understanding and treatment of combat trauma. The term PTSD didn't even exist when Audie was fighting his battles with it. Today, it's recognized, treated, and discussed openly, in large part because of his courage to speak about it. But here's the most important part of his legacy. Audie Murphy proved that size doesn't matter. Background doesn't matter. Where you come from doesn't matter. He was 5 feet 5 inches, 112 pounds, from a dirt-poor Texas family, rejected by every branch of military. He became the most decorated soldier in U.S. history. Not because he was big. Not because he was privileged. Not because he had advantages. But because when the moment demanded it, he stood up. On that burning tank in January 1945, Audie Murphy could have retreated. He could have run. He could have let someone else handle it. Instead, he climbed onto a burning vehicle and fought 250 German soldiers alone. That's not about size. That's not about background. That's about character. And character is the one thing you choose. Audie Murphy chose to be a hero, even when being a hero cost him everything, including his peace of mind for the rest of his life. Want to hear about the soldier who fought WWII with a sword and bagpipes? Watch Mad Jack Churchill's incredible story next.